swiftly to the next session. We're going to have a conversation piece about governance and regulating the metaverse. To share her wealth of knowledge on this topic, and joining us virtually today, it is a metaverse track. Please welcome Dame Wendy Hall, Regis Professor in Computer Science, University of Southampton, who will be talking to Dr. Kate Devlin, Reader in Artificial Intelligence and Society, King's College London. Over to you, Kate.
If I sit on the side, you can see Wendy, who's here virtually. Wendy, we can see you. It's good. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hi. I can see you. I can't see if there's anyone in the audience. A lot of people got up and left then.
They'll come back when they hear us talk. I'm sure of it. So welcome to the session, Governance and Regulating the Metaverse, featuring two academics who don't have any money to invest in the metaverse or any money to make from the metaverse, and who watched the first wave of virtual reality rise and fall. So I'm Dr. Kate Devlin. I'm Reader in Artificial Intelligence and Society at King's College London, and I'm Director of Advocacy and Engagement for the Trusted Autonomous Systems Hub, which is a £33 million collaborative platform in the UK to enable the development of socially beneficial robotics and artificial intelligence systems that are both trustworthy in principle and trusted in practice. Joining me online, as befits this topic, is Professor Dame Wendy Hall, Regis Professor of Computer Science at Southampton. Wendy's been a key player in the field for many years now. She was co-chair of the UK government's AI review, which was published in October 2017. And she's the first skills champion for AI in the UK. In May 2020, she was appointed as chair of the Ada Lovelace Institute, and she joined the BT Technology Advisory Board in January 2021. So we've already had a couple of panels on the metaverse, and everyone decided that they needed to define what the metaverse was and struggled because we don't really know. We're still in the infancy. And in fact, Meta only released legs for avatars yesterday, if you follow their updates. So I want to open by taking issue with the very term, the metaverse. And Wendy, I think we agree on this.
Yes.
So do you want to tell us why you disagree with this term?
It's very difficult because I'm not there, and I came in. I'm sorry, I'm in. I can't be there today. Everyone's been emailing me and say, "Can I meet up for drinks and things?" And that we don't have a way of doing that. Even with the metaverse, it might be difficult to share gin and tonics. But I'm actually in the wonderful island of Jersey talking about data trusts and things. I'm on a board here, but. I came in on the end of that panel, and I don't know, I was trying to look up in the program who the last speaker was who said there's no problem with cybersecurity in the metaverse.
That was Jack Macaulay. So I think he's still here, possibly still here, from one of the
That wasn't Derek Macaulay. That wasn't.
Oh, Derek before that. Oh, sorry. Was that with our host? Yeah. Okay.
Derek Macaulay would never say that.
No, not Derek. Jack.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah. Maybe I don't know. I don't know who it was, but no problem. Well, first of all, there is no the metaverse, right? And I'd like to start by saying, I heard the last question as well, which was about Web3. There is no Web3, okay? And all of these things are coming from very different angles to where the original web and internet came from. And you very kindly read out my current bio. I'm old, and I've been around since before the web, and I've been part of this scene, watched the web grow on top of the internet, and then all the things that have happened, good and bad, since the 1990s. And that was built on the web and the internet there is, at the moment, an internet, despite the fact I've just written a book called Four Internets. That's a cultural view of the internet. There is one universal, the technical standards for the internet are still universal, open, ubiquitous. And that's what enables everybody, good and bad, to build stuff on the internet. And Tim Berners-Lee built, he created the standards, protocols for building the web on top of the internet that he gave away to everybody. So there is one web. But what people do with that is very different. We've had commercial players come in. Now governments are doing different things. So it is fragmenting in different sorts of ways, not technically, hopefully, but in terms of the way it's used and applied and regulated. But now we're coming into this world, and as Kate, you said, we've lived through several virtual reality revolutions. One that was going to be, I forgot what was it called, that was going to be everything, where the universities started having, what was it? Can you remember the
Which one? There's so many. We had Second Life. We had.
Second Life. Second Life is the one I'm thinking of, but there have been many plays at this. Largely failed because not the concept, which is still with us, but the technology wasn't ready. We're now in a world where we're sort of technology ready for that, but the play is very different to the original internet and web plays. This is a commercial play, so we will. At the moment, there is no hope of one metaverse, right? There are different commercial companies which are different companies, commercial, that are seeking to be the owners, the winner takes all in this space. I don't know if it will be a winner takes all because there are no interoperability standards. There are no agreed protocols for anything. And it's not just about you could build anything you wanted on the web. That was part of its strength and its weakness. But this is about personal identities and who you are and what persona you present in the virtual world. And you could be a different persona in different virtual worlds. You could be a different persona in the same virtual world. And so understanding privacy, security, trust, safety across all those different worlds that are going to be created and competing against each other, just like the social media networks do today. In a sense, they would all love us just to be on their platform. So in one way, well, we're sort of lucky there won't be one metaverse, because if there was one, I think I agreed with him on this point. The last speaker said, there's not going to be one god of the metaverse and we'll all, because it won't work like that. But there will be competing metaverses, which gives us a chance maybe to think about how we regulate in that space. But the commercial drive is taking it forward so fast technically that it's not giving us the time, and that's what we need to worry about, how we manage it socially.
So someone earlier mentioned digital twins, and this is something that you've done some work on. And when you talk about this interoperability that's required and these digital standards, I mean, that's specifically going to require some form of specific technical standards. Can you tell us a little bit about digital twins?
Well, I don't know. Yes, I do think a lot about digital twins. What I haven't thought profoundly about is how much the metaverse is, well, how much a metaverse, can we start talking about a metaverse?
Absolutely.
Might be like a digital twin of what? A parallel world that you exist in, and how many of those are going to exist in. A digital twin is effectively you model and simulate an environment. So you have a digital version of designing a house, right, or a city, or a bridge, or a nuclear power plant, or a regular power plant, or a supermarket, or how the data flows around that, and modeling it in a digital form, so you can actually think about, understand how it's going to work physically. That's the idea of a digital twin. And people do talk about us people having digital twins, and science fiction has talked about this for a long time.
Yes.
The Philip Pullman novels, you have your on your shoulder.
Yeah, you get demon on your
shoulder, which is an idea that stuck with me very much in my thinking about this. A metaverse is not the same as a digital twin, but in terms of any of this to work, so there's some form of interoperability between metaverses or digital twins, or maybe digital twin feeding into metaverses. So, for example, you could have a digital twin of a supermarket being realized in a metaverse. Does that make any sense?
It does. And it's interesting because you're talking, the original concept of the metaverse that came out of Neil Stephenson's book, Snow Crash. I mean, that was written in the very early days of the World Wide Web. So his book came out in '92, and
very early days of the web.
very
I
early
mean, he
days.
must have been writing it before the web existed.
Yeah, pretty much. And interestingly, he did see this joined metaverse with different aspects to it. But he'd gone straight into the dystopia, and we seem to have done the same thing. We seem to have jumped, the kind of smooth operating bit and into the glitch.
Yeah, and I think it's partly, Kate, I think, because we've seen what's happened with the web and the internet, right?
Yeah.
We've seen that the good of having a ubiquitous system anyone can build something on, and with no regulation and very little, actually, I mean, security built into the protocols. You have to retrospectively add that effectively. And the way that society has not managed to, our society anyway, other cultures, like the big country in Southeast Asia, have done it very differently. It's but in the West, we've let it all hang out, and everything good and bad that happens in society you see happening on the internet. So the internet, can you imagine life without it? It's changed our world hugely for the good, hugely. But there are very, very dangerous elements to it, which we're having to learn to live with very rapidly. We do that in physical society. We've learned to lock our doors, lock our windows. We have laws that stop people doing us harm. And if they do harm, they hopefully will be caught and sentenced in whatever way society sees fit. That happened over centuries.
Yeah.
This, in some way, people say, "Oh, we have laws to manage that." Actually, the digital world, yes, there are some things you could translate. The laws from the physical world into the digital world. There are other things that happen in the digital world that don't happen in the physical world, or that they happen much, much, much faster and amplified much more. So the effect is more, but the punishment isn't there if you do harm.
Yeah, and this sort of brings back into what you're saying about your four internets, this idea of these different cultural internets. We already know that we're looking at different jurisdictions at play. We're looking at different ethics frameworks at play because these are very culturally based. So is it going to be possible, given geopolitical differences, to be able to provide any kind of consistency across metaverses, plural?
Well, yes, I think we need to start talking about that, Kate. We have to change the rhetoric and stop talking about the metaverse, because at the moment there is no the metaverse. But in that, so our argument in the book is that the cultures we see playing out in the way that the internet is governed and regulated and used or abused in different parts of the world, different cultural regions of the world, we will see that play out in the same with AI systems, the way they're regulated, governed, used, abused, and in I think in metaverse land, we'll see the same. I don't know. Do you know about China and the metaverse? It's something I haven't. We know about China and large language models with Wu Dao. We know about China and their social media platforms. There must be a Chinese version of the metaverse. There must be a Chinese metaverse.
If anyone's going to know about this, Wendy, I expect it to be you. So,
well, I haven't, because I haven't been to China for 3 years. But I haven't. I must ask my colleagues at Tsinghua University, because there must be one. There has to be one. We sort of, TikTok has emerged as a huge social media phenomenon, good and bad. A lot, comes out of China, and who knows what the competition will be for Meta and Apple and everyone else that's playing for metaverses in the Western world. What will come out of China, and how that will play in. And for sure, the rules and regulations of being in a Chinese metaverse will be very different to any sort of rules and regs we might try to apply to metaverses in our culture.
Yeah. So
sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I've been to the Middle East for several times in the last month, I don't know. There's something. The universe is drawing me into the Middle East. I don't know why, but I'll find out. And I went to Saudi Arabia for the first time, and boy, is it changing. You know, I didn't have to wear anything special when I got off the plane, and there was no segregation of men and women in the events I was at or anything I was at, and it was incredibly welcoming. And you know, we know that the issues we have in terms of their government's culture, and you know, the issues about whether we want to interact with governments like countries that have these sorts of governments. It's really difficult to know what's the best thing to do. And I'm thinking about, as they become, you know, what sort of, if you had a metaverse that originated from Saudi Arabia, you know, or not Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, you know, that sort of area. What would it be like to be in it? You know, and we sort of have a concept that a metaverse within our values will be just like the internet. You'll be able to do what you like, right? And people, you know, how will, I mean, the example I used the other day that went down well is one thing I'd like to be able to do in a metaverse. I've learned to love online shopping. I hated it, but during COVID, I've learned to love it. But you know, the horrible thing about having to try clothes on when they arrive and then bother about sending them back because they don't fit, they don't suit you. In a metaverse, you'd be able to actually digitally try those clothes on. Okay. But that would mean that that company had your body metrics.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you don't worry about that on the internet. You worry about them having your bank account details or your name and all that other stuff that they can send, you know, you try and scam you or steal your identity. But you know, if you're going into a world where they've got your body metrics, I mean, you see the pictures, the videos of Mark Zuckerberg doing things with a wetsuit on and stuff like that, and you think, well, you know, how much of me am I going to share in a metaverse, and what are they going to be able to do with that data?
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think that maybe Zuckerberg is the best advert for the metaverse as it happens.
I don't want to be anywhere near a virtual world that's run by someone like a Mark Zuckerberg character. But and you know, also health. I mean, you know, the things that you could do in a metaverse to do with sharing how to do an operation online, so that you could get the expertise of skilled surgeons in one country to help surgeons in another country perform an operation or share information. You know, virtual reality is already used for that very effectively, and you can imagine that working fantastically. And if you raise the issue of this, you know, the combining a digital twin with a metaverse, and there's so much you could do with that in terms of, you know, travel, transport, all sorts of things that can make our lives a lot easier. So it's not all bad.
Yeah.
But we have to get our governments to think about how they're going to keep us safe in these worlds.
Yeah. Okay, we have got 1.5 minutes for questions. If anyone's got a question, there's a roving mic. It goes so quickly. So does anyone want to ask Wendy anything? She's right here, trapped on the screen. She can't escape you. Oh, there's some hands up over here.
We haven't talked about Web3 yet.
I know, we haven't.
Web3.
Don't think we're going to have time to talk about Web3. There's one on your left. Oh, too late.
Hi, I'm audible?
Hello.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I have something that I often think about when I think about metaverse and AI and data science in a total, which is who will guard the guards. So let's say the rulers of the countries or the rulers of the big tech companies like Twitter or Facebook, nobody's guarding them. And we are having this problem in the real world. We all know that. And now we are moving towards the virtual world. What are your views on this? Like, how should we work on it, or how should we make it? And there are a lot of data scientists sitting here. They will also probably create amazing stuff in future. So what are your views on how should we create the apps or the platforms that we don't have to think about who will guard the guards?
Sorry, I missed the last bit because it's got a bit noisy. How do we make the digital platform?
How do we make sure when we are making the new apps or platform, how do we make sure that we don't have to ask this question again, that who will guard the guards?
Well, we haven't answered it for the internet yet. So and this is a huge problem. The EU I mean, this is all in the book. The EU take a fierce line on data protection, for example. Other regions around the world don't do that. They put other priorities first. The UK is sort of in between the two, as ever, in terms of the US and Europe. And we're looking at, we've got the online safety bill going through Parliament, but it has all sorts of problems.
Don't even start me.
And sorry,
Don't even start me on that.
No, I know, and it's well at the moment it's who knows, but it has all sorts of problems because basically they don't answer your question. If it's not, they talk. The bill talks about if it's legal but harmful, the companies need to do something about it. Who decides whether it's harmful or not? And the problems we're talking about with the internet are on steroids in any metaverse. And so there has to be. I mean, I talked about when I was involved in the Global Internet Commission. It's a three-way pact between government, the companies that run these technology platforms, and us as citizens. And we have to have some agreement about where the censorship lies. And I always point to, and I know we're nowhere near it, but I point to the way Wikipedia works. And some people criticize this, but Wikipedia has an amazing governance model, which doesn't have a big company involved. So there's nobody trying to make a profit out of it. But we are going to, as citizens, need to be involved. But the trouble is, this takes time to work through. And the technology and the apps, that's what worries me, are being developed now without any regard to who guards the guards. And to be honest with you, that's why I think our book's important, because we talk in there about, where the company's based is the rules and regulations that company will run under. And if they operate in other countries, they'll have to abide by the rules and regulations of that country. So it comes down from the government, and then it depends whether your government is democratically elected or not, as to whether you have a say. And which government, that doesn't mean a democratically elected government doesn't mean they've got it right either. So these things are not easy to solve, and it's as much our problem to solve it. So we need to get the companies and to think about these issues and not just think about the profit at the end of it. It doesn't help at all, but it's the issue we're tackling.
It's a really good way of highlighting what the issues are. So thank you very much. I'm really sorry we don't have time for more questions, but thank you so much. And thank you, Wendy, all the way from Jersey.
Thank you. Have a good time in Amsterdam. Have a drink on me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dame Wendy. Thank you, Kate. Two things to take away. First one was a metaverse, not the metaverse. I don't know if you guys got it. And the second one was digital twin. So if you get a moment, check out Singapore online. They've actually created a digital twin of the entire country. Okay, so next.